If I didn't do that, I don't think I would have my job.
And there's genuinely so many things I have learned through that entire recruitment process. That's advice I wish I knew before.
Because it's so competitive, like your application will get lost. I'll always remember that moment, the moment I got my first job.
Especially like an international student perspective on visas, on getting jobs in the UK.
Hello.
Hi guys!
Oh my god, that hello was bad.
I'm Sakshee.
I'm Tiya. When I first met you, I had no idea. Like, I wouldn't have ever guessed that we're doing this together today. I randomly just texted her saying, Sakshee, like, would you be willing to, like, I have a thought.
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast. And she was instantly, like, in 5 seconds, like, there was a text, let's do it.
Secret, Tiya has a YouTube channel.
Shut up.
Like she has a few videos. How many videos do you have?
I have, like, 6-7 videos.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I stopped because editing like sucked the life out of me.
God.
I was like, okay, no, I want to go back to YouTube. Maybe in a different style, like a podcast style, because I love talking so much.
Exactly.
And who else loves talking?
I love sitting down and just like having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy talking to people so much.
Oh my god.
I'm a very curious person. So I feel like this was the perfect thing to do.
Sakshi asks a lot of questions. Like, that's her thing. Like, Sakshi is the most curious person you'll find. It's questions on questions. And I love giving answers.
I've got that so many times. And Tiya loves talking. So this works well.
This works out. Yeah, we basically got close when we were in our job search. We both graduated last year from university. We
June
moved to
2023.
London.
Yeah.
We live in London. We came here for our undergrad and we finished last year. And then we started working, and that job hunt process is what got us close together.
As an international student especially, going through it.
Oh my god.
When you have like a set timeline.
And when you have someone you can relate to, it makes the
Like
whole
something
process easier.
So much easier. Like at least knowing that, okay, it's not just me who's getting rejected by every company on this planet. Like there's 2 other people who are doing it with me.
That was like the beginning of our friendship, basically, the whole job hunt process. So I really think that should be the beginning of a podcast too.
Yeah.
Just discussing everything we went to and maybe try to help even one of you out.
And there's genuinely so many things I have learned through that entire recruitment process, which would be so helpful for everyone else to know. Like from someone who's just starting out or who's through it right now, because that's advice I wish I knew before.
So let's begin my story time, and just FYI, I get a bit dramatic in my story times.
Tiya's story time is a movie.
Yeah, it's like
the difference between hers and mine is going to be so funny.
So for context, I studied business management in university at Cass Business School, and I always knew that I wanted to do something in the beauty industry because that's something that I've been so passionate about since I was really young. Yeah, so in my beginning of my third year is when I started applying for jobs. And while I was doing that, actually, I was also interning at a skincare brand in London. I basically wanted to get as much exposure into the beauty industry as possible for a full-time role, just so that I think that I would have a stronger positioning in the pool of applicants if I have prior experience specifically in that industry, because beauty and fashion and industries like that are kind of very saturated and it's very competitive.
Do you think your internship like helped you understand what you want to do?
It definitely gave me like a good tap into understanding, like, you know, all of this seems so glamorous from the outside, like, oh, she's working in beauty, that must be like all glitz and glamour, but that's not actually the case. There's so much technical stuff as well that goes on into it. Like, it's actually like something that's so much more fast paced than you would think and so demanding. So that's something that I kind of got like a bit of a hint of. So it prepared me well for when I started my full-time role at Coty.
When you started applying to jobs, you knew what you were applying for.
Yeah. I was very... Yeah, I feel like a lot of people...
you were set on one position in one industry.
Yeah, I was only looking at beauty roles because I was like, this is the industry and that's it, because no other industry is exciting me, or like I don't have a passion there. And that's when I came across Coty, which is the company I work at right now. Coty, for some context, again, is basically a parent company and then it owns many brands under it, kind of like L'Oreal Group, if you're familiar with that. So I applied to basically every role that I saw at Coty.
Yeah, but I think when she says every role listed on their website, Tiya has applied to.
I did. I think there were like 35, 40 applications on my Koti career portal. And I was like, okay, one of them to at least should go. But I did that. And after that, this is something that I learned through the process, through my friends as well, that making connections on LinkedIn or networking in general is a really good point to like start kind of stand out. So
Get your
I
foot
was
through the door.
yeah, because again, like because it's such a saturated industry, there's I have to stand out in some way because they get 10,000, like thousands and thousands of applications. If I didn't do that, I don't think I would have my job because it's so competitive. Like your application will get lost.
Yeah.
And you need to realize that HR is not like a person is not looking at your application when you enter your CV. At these bigger companies, it's normally like AI operated.
It's like screened, yeah.
It's screened. So like sometimes you'll just get rejected even without having your CV approved.
If you have certain words in your CV which match that job description or what the company is looking for, then you progress to the next round. Or sometimes you get a rejection like a couple of seconds because you just didn't pass that stage.
It's happened to me.
Yeah.
It's happened. And I was just like, is something wrong with me? Like, I didn't know that this AI is such a big factor in this. Because when I just started applying, so like I used to get rejections in like 3 seconds. I'm like, oh my god, am I that bad?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what happened. And then, yeah, basically because of that whole connection networking thing, which I figured out that I have to do to kind of like stand out, I started connecting with employees within Koti through LinkedIn. Send them a message saying, hey, like, are you like free for like a quick chat or something like that? Like any insights that you can give me on the role or your company, like anything I can learn, I'd appreciate that. And a lot of them didn't reply. I think most of them didn't reply. Only
I
two
think
people
like you
replied.
send messages to like 20 people, like 50 people, like one person if you're lucky will reply.
Yeah.
1 or 2 people.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe like no one replies. But that's when you have to like follow up and chase. 2 people replied back to me. One of them happened to be an assistant. So I got on call with her and she told me a lot more about the role. And the more she told me, the more I was like, oh my god, this is what I want to do. Like the opportunity and like the growth aspects of
Like
that
everything
role.
aligned with what you
yeah,
wanna
it
do.
was
Yeah.
so well aligned with.
It really helps even when you're interviewing because at least it shows interest that you've taken the time out to talk to someone. You actually know what goes on at the company and why you want it so bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know it like so much more. Like you wouldn't know like the day to day of what happens in that role because the job description is not going to tell you like
Exactly.
your daily tasks. And then after that conversation, another person reached back to me that this was like a senior, I don't know what you call it, like senior management level person from the company, and she actually was very kind enough to refer me to the HR. Like she just forwarded my CV to HR, which was great.
Yeah.
Now these things don't happen often, so you need to
Yeah.
like keep going at it. Like this, literally getting that one referral maybe took me like 2 months. HR got back to me and they wanted to actually set up a call with me. The first question she asked me was about my visa. Obviously, my student visa was about to expire that year and I didn't have a grad visa. So there were a lot of complications, which is why she told me we can't even consider you because of your visa situation currently and we're not sponsoring students right now.
And that's happened to us so many times throughout the whole process. Like you are so excited about an application, you apply, you reach a certain stage, and then the first thing they ask is, oh, do you have a visa? And you're like, no, I'm an international student, I'll need sponsorship.
Super sad.
But also like you don't because of the grad visa now.
Whatever, like my dreams were kind of like crushed because I was like, I can't even be considered, like it's that bad now. And I was very sad for like a few days, but I had to get over it because I had to continue applying to other places and seek other opportunities, which I did. A few weeks later, actually, when I was back home in India, I got a call from them saying that there's a role that's opened up which we would like you to interview for. And I was like, wow, amazing.
I guess the power of just when you stay in contact so much and you're always like there, your name is always on their minds.
Yeah,
This
because
is when things
you're
like this
technically
help.
in the application pool, right?
Yeah.
Because they know you now.
Yeah.
So, and she had told me in that call that there's nothing open right now, but we are going to add you to the applicant pool. So, if anything opens up, we'll reach out to you, which they actually. So, then I interviewed for that role. Then I was moved to the final stage interview where I had to present in front of the whole team. Did that as well, and I had a positive feeling because the team seemed to like what I presented, and
Yeah.
like like when you can just tell it was a good presentation and a good interview. I remember got my rejection.
I was so
And-
upset at that rejection because I really, like, when you have a feeling, because you had 2 interviews when this was when she was in India over spring
I had
break.
to. And then after a few weeks of that rejection, I got a message from HR again saying, unfortunately, like, your interview didn't work out. So I was like, why the hell is this person rejecting me twice? Like, I already know they rejected me. Then I opened the whole email and then I see that unfortunately it didn't work out with the last role, but we have another new role that's opened up, and this is a global
Oh.
role. When I read the job
Global
description,
innovation.
it was global innovation, which is like product development, like
Yeah.
innovating the products.
Making makeup.
Making makeup,
Right?
yeah. Like
Simplifying
managing
it,
making
yeah.
makeup. Like I'm not a chemist or anything. Just to clarify. No, people think like I work in the lab when I say product development. That's not I'm managing the, like, basically assisting on managing the projects.
Okay.
So I interviewed for that role as well. And I remember this interview, honestly guys, by then I had given so many interviews. So I was so used to the like rhythm of interviews, like I knew what was
Yeah.
coming. So when I gave that interview, I was just like, I'm gonna go and have a chat. I'm not even gonna like try to give
Not
the
gonna be
best
nervous,
answer.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to
Also,
give
I
the
feel
best.
like towards the end of it, it's just because you can't care. Like I couldn't care more.
I was like,
It's also
fuck
that
it now.
vibe.
Like,
Like,
what
it's
can
not
I
just-
do? And now it was just time to wait to hear back. And there was obviously one more round after that, and I was waiting to hear back if I move like forward to the other round. They told me that I did. And I remember one morning she just randomly messaged me saying, "Hi, do you have 5 minutes to talk?" And I was like, my brain directly went to like, she's gonna reject me, and she's gonna reject me on call this time because she wants to be nice to me, because I have been on like in contact with that person for 7 months. And at this point, guys, all my friends were employed. It was just me left. Let me just know that. So stress levels were like
To the
beyond like, yeah.
Also, we had set deadlines for ourselves, like till when we're gonna keep applying, because then we have to make a decision on whether we're gonna go back home or we're staying here. And I
Yeah.
think this was your last month, right? Last
Yes.
few days before your deadline.
Yeah, my deadline was July and this was end of June. But yeah, anyway, I got that call and I picked that call up and I was shaking, I remember.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like I was sweating, dude. And I remember on call, she was just like, you know, we think you're a great candidate. I was like, okay, now she's going to say you're a great candidate. No. My head was like, she's going to say you're a great candidate, but not good enough. So like, I was,
Why are you being so pessimistic?
because Sakshee, I got rejected so many times, like from
Yeah.
200 companies. So I was like, okay, 201. Like, that's it. And then she basically said, we are a great candidate, whatever. We believe in your capabilities. We want to offer you this role. Bro,
You started crying.
my world went blank. As dramatic as it may sound, it's true, my world went
Like,
blank.
you don't remember the rest of the call, do you?
I don't remember.
'Cause
She was like-
I don't remember mine either.
she was
I
talking-
was so happy.
Yeah, like she was talking
Yeah.
through it, and I was like, oh my god, I started crying, and
Yeah.
I was controlling. I was like, I'll always remember that moment. Like
The
the
moment
moment
you
I
got your
got
first job.
the moment I got my first job after struggling for like 8 months. That's my
Tiya's story time.
job story time. But I think the world should hear yours as well.
So I studied psychology at King's. As SEMs went by, I enjoyed the business modules of psychology a lot more. Like we had org psych, we had economic psych. I was like, okay, now looking ahead or like looking at jobs, I wanted to go more into that side of things rather than clinical psych. The summer before my third year, I did an internship. The role was data analytics and customer insight. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't looking into that too much when I was applying for jobs beginning of third year. I had gone to a careers event at uni and I had heard about consulting before, but I hadn't really looked into it much. And they talked about very like similar skills I had used at that internship, at the summer internship, but basically it was more variety and exposure to a bunch of different industries. And that's exactly what I wanted, because I still didn't know what I want to do when I like in the next few years. So I was like, okay, this sounds great. A few things I liked about consulting was the fact that the progression was very structured. You know what you have to do in the next few years. And it's also one of the jobs that paid well in the UK compared to other fields. And when I went to this careers event, I was like, okay, this sounds like something I would enjoy, at least for now. And that's when I started applying to jobs like that.
When was this exactly? Like in your third year?
Literally September third year.
So beginning of your third year. Same time around as like when
Same
I
time around-
started looking
Yeah,
for jobs.
exactly. And this was when uni had begun. So I think like end of September.
Okay. Yeah.
And now, if like people, I guess, who know how this process works, one of the main interviews in consulting is the case interview. I have never cased in my life before.
What
And
is case interview?
it's like they give you a business problem, and in that 1 hour or through that interview, you're solving the problem with them. And it tests like your math, your logic, how you think, how you approach business problems.
That's fun.
Honestly, it is kind of fun because you're for example, if you were to have your own business a few years down the line, that's exactly the kind of things you'd need to think about.
Yeah.
And I feel like people who do consulting at least practice casing the summer before they start applying, or they practice for a few weeks or months before they recruit. And now, while I'm sending applications in, I'm practicing casing, I'm practicing writing a CV and a cover letter. So, retrospectively, it makes a lot of sense why the first few places I applied to, I would just get rejected. Because obviously, like, I'm applying to all of these big companies and places and writing cover letters overnight. Like, that's not
Oh my
something
God,
you
yeah,
do.
no. How long ago do people normally like start casing? Like practicing casing?
I think
at
at least a few months before you start applying.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask like how did you know about like casing interviews like being a thing? Because
Yeah.
I don't know
Just
that.
I went to YouTube. Like I go to YouTube for everything in my life. So literally things like, just when I went to that careers event and I was like, okay, this is something I could be interested in. I remember watching so many YouTube videos just about like what is consulting, exit
Yeah, I think that
opportunities
helps.
after, what a day in the life looks like. And yeah, and then I started applying, and the first couple of months, like September to December, nothing really worked out. Around Jan came, I didn't have any interviews yet. No, I had just given assessments at this point. Wasn't getting to that second round. I'm not the kind of person who gets stressed, even though I didn't have anything working in my favor, like no previous internships, like spring, summer week, nothing. But I was still being quite positive about it.
But when you tell yourself that it's gonna happen, at least for me, it just puts you in such a better like mindset.
But I think operating from that mindset of it's going to happen, I just don't know when and I don't know how, but I have to keep on doing my part.
Yeah.
And I remember and at this point I was applying to other jobs on LinkedIn as well. Like I was applying for marketing, I was applying for just other roles
Yeah.
in business. I was applying to recruitment consultancies, God knows what I would have done there. And I got an interview from one of those. And I think it's still just good practice, because giving that interview was really good practice to giving other interviews down the line.
That's the thing, right? When I say that I got rejected 10,000 times, like obviously like it's sad, but there's so much you learn through those rejections, like especially with interviews.
Yeah, I finally get an assessment center for this one company I had applied to in Jan. And it's so funny because we booked a birthday trip for one of our friends' birthdays. We've booked a trip to Bodrum in Turkey. The day we come back from Bodrum, my assessment center is supposed to happen. But something like in my gut told me, like usually I would have always cancelled and
Yeah, you're the
prepared for
type.
the interview. But something in my gut told me, just go for the trip. So whatever, we come back, I do the interview, and this role was supposed to be in Sheffield. It's still not like the ideal option. This one assessment center, one final stage interview I've got, but it's not even in London. But at that point, I'm like, let it happen. If it happens, I'll still do it. And I give the assessment center. I'm supposed to hear back in 2 weeks. Don't hear back in 2 weeks. Follow up. Don't hear back. A month later, someone reaches out to me from HR going like, we see you're London based, but you've applied for a Sheffield role. And I was like, yes, London is my first preference, but I'm totally open to relocating to
Yeah.
Sheffield.
And in our
Even
head,
though
we're
I
like, of
wouldn't have
course.
lasted more than 2 hours in that town. It's so small. Yeah, and then they go like, oh, someone from the London office wants to speak to you. And it's so crazy
The
because
way it
London wasn't
happened.
even an option.
And suddenly it was there.
Because for me, it was the exact job role I wanted. It was in an industry I had not prepped for at all in the first few years of uni. Like, no previous internship experience, nothing. Like, I don't know why it happened, but I just believed it would.
Manifestation.
In London, which was even crazier.
And randomly, HR reached out to you.
Random. I hadn't even reached out to the company saying, is London an option?
This is so funny because somehow it's kind of similar because HR randomly like reached out to me saying suddenly we have a role open.
Yeah.
Even though all their roles were like filled.
Yeah.
And then with you like
Exactly.
suddenly a role opened in London. Which wasn't even an option.
Which I didn't even ask for or think would happen.
Happen.
And then I had a call with someone from the London office. The call went really well. And then literally the next day, I get a call from the recruiter I'd been in touch with. And I still remember how my phone screen looked with her name on it. And I pick up and she's like, how do you think your call went? And I was like, I think it went well. But like, you never really know.
Yeah, like where are you getting at?
Yeah. And then she goes like, oh, we're so happy to offer you a position in the London office. And the rest of the call was literally blank. Because I was so happy. There are so many things, looking back, I wish I knew
100%.
before starting. So we thought we'd do like a section on just tips or things which we wish we knew before.
Yeah, I think this is a great platform to help you guys.
We also talk about what more this podcast is going to be about. Because I feel like
Okay,
we haven't
yeah.
done that.
Okay, yeah. To give you a gist of our, obviously this
Yeah.
is our first
This is our
video,
first
but this is
episode.
not a career podcast. This
Oh.
is just,
This is not at all a careers podcast.
yeah, we're
only.
fun people. We're here for more things than that.
Because you want to talk about everything related to your 20s. Like things we talk about on a daily basis, like female friendships, school friendships, coming to uni for the first time as an international student, how that feels.
Yeah, so stay tuned and we'll come back with more videos.
See you!